rolling right,
flipping right.
drawing right.
This is our top 5 blank and right list. I'm Paul.
I'm Devin.
And we are Dads and Dice, and today we're going through our top 5 blank and right games.
Yeah, this is a category that Paul and I very much enjoy. I don't really know what our first one was, but really we kind of found them and just started loving them. And every time we're at somewhere like BGG or something like that, we just try and at least play one or two.
Find a new one.
Yeah, find a new one that we hadn't tried. We played all kinds of, from little tiny to
real heavy ones.
Yeah, so this is our top 5 list. Starting off with my number 5. It's going to be Wards of Stonefall.
Nice. That is a good one.
So,
good choice.
Wards of Stonefall is a kind of campaign-based roll and write where it's also a tower defense game. And both players, or all the players, are kind of all protecting against the same, we'll call it creep, trying to get into these crystals. And so you're building up tower strength, you're building walls to kind of reroute and maze the creep around, and all to protect these crystals that can give you special little powerful abilities. And every single round there's like an event that happens, and that is just where the fun and kind of hilariousness really ensues, because every time you're like, oh man, we're hoping for this great event, and then it's just something so terrible that wipes out your towers or causes more monsters to come. And I can't say enough good things. Paul and I have done nothing but laugh every single time we're playing this together. That's why it made my list.
Yeah, this game, we originally got it as kind of a Kickstarter preview, right? It's an actual print and play. You didn't even mention that. But man, I just remember that first playthrough that we did where we're just chunking all these dice, right? There was just so many dice. And like you said, it was every time the event was coming, it was just like, please, nothing bad, please, nothing bad. And then just both of us just like jaws dropped of just, are you kidding me? That one was such an awesome experience. We only got to play the first part of the campaign. They have said that they're going to be coming out with more parts to it, and we're definitely going to be backing it because that was an awesome game.
Yeah, so that was my number 5. Paul, what do you have?
So my number 5 is actually another print and play game, and it is Ghost Love Candy 2 Roll and Fright. So this one is published by 25th Century Media, and it's one that didn't really get a ton of attention, but it came out around Halloween time. So there's actually a board game version of Ghost Love Candy where it's an actual game, and this is the roll and write version of it. So this game actually comes with 3 different maps, and it's a bunch of kids in costumes, and you're trying to collect candy. Of course, it's that Halloween theme, and it goes from a very basic kind of game to a more advanced one. And you have things where you are kind of, it's called haunt the block. So you're going around the block, so you're rolling the dice and you're moving that many spaces, and then you can land on a kid there and it says you can only go here with your highest dice number, right? And then you go to another one and it's something like you can go clock or counterclockwise for this turn. So you're trying to fill in all the spaces. And there's another one that's a lot more combo heavy. That's if you cross off this, you can get this big candy bar, because you want the big candy bars and not the little pieces of candy, and those are your bonuses. So just everything about it was just super thematic. It's really fun to get out around that Halloween time. And like I said, it goes from very basic roll and write to a lot heavier one, and it's full of those combos, and that's really what you want in a good roll and write, is those combo-y, just feel-good moves.
Yeah, so one, I haven't played, don't have much to say. Maybe we do it next Halloween, right?
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. That's a good one.
So that was our number 5s. Let's get on to the number 4s. So for my number 4, can't have a list without a Garfield game. Gonna make it Hadrian's Wall.
Yep.
If you haven't played Hadrian's Wall, if you haven't heard of Hadrian's Wall, not exactly sure where you have been, because this is the roll and write that everybody mentions when they're talking about roll and writes. It is a
roll and write.
Chunky, beefy, heavy roll and write. It has that nice combo-y tasticness to it. but there is just so much kind of decision space with everything you're doing. You actually have two separate boards, and on the left one is kind of the main fort that you are building. You're going to be trying to do some foresting, do some defending of a wall.
Building up your sippy or chippy, whatever it's called.
Yeah, building up your actual wall, and then kind of this structure of the building all kind of happens there. And then the right side of the board is where, I don't remember if they're workers or peasants, I think is what they are.
Citizens.
Citizens, that's what they are. That is where the citizens get played, and it is an entire track of the citizen track. And so I think it's 5 or 6 different tracks. Each kind of specializing in a different thing, and so that's where the combos start going. You go there to get stuff for the other side, you go to the other side to get stuff for the citizen track, and can't say enough good things about Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah, with Hadrian's Wall, I'm not going to say too much, don't want to spoil my list. I'll say a little bit more later, but that is just a classic roll and write, or flip and write, should we say in this case. And if you haven't tried it, definitely recommend it. So for my number 4, it is actually Rolling Realms, the Stonemaier game. I love Rolling Realms. I love the replayability of Rolling Realms. So if you don't know anything about it, you have these different realms, which are just cards. And the cards started off as just a bunch of Stonemaier games. So you'd have your Charterstone one, which was if you rolled certain numbers, you'd be able to take off this box, right, or open up this box, kind of like in Charterstone. There was the Viticulture one that was let you circle in some grapes or then produce some wine. There's the Euphoria one, which you were trying to build out specific numbers. So like 1 through 4, you would gain this resource. And then if you had a 4 through 9 or whatever like that, you would not get anything because that's, you know, where you don't want them to be. So it kind of tied into that bliss of Euphoria. So it ties in all of his games, and what you do is you pick 3 of those, and then on your turn you just roll the dice and you put them in whichever realm you think is best for that place, right? So you can only place 1 number in 1 realm per round. Of course, there are some cards that let you do it in 2. You can also gain some resources. I believe it's a pumpkin and a star, of course. You know, Jamie loves his stars. So it's just a game that has tons of replayability because you're able to mix and match all of those realms. As the game has gotten more popular, not only are there his games, now we started incorporating all other types of games. So I know I have Feast for Odin and Architects of the West Kingdom, and of course on those, you know, for Architects, you're building up the cathedral or you're working on your virtue. For Feast for Odin, you're filling up the different islands. So it's just a really good game where he has been able to incorporate other games into this one. And if you know those other games, it makes it that much more fun.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot to say about Rolling Realms. It was one that never quite grasped me. I really think it's just got so much replayability, as you said. You can always mix realms. And a neat, interesting fact that it started off as a roll and write, a print and play
during
the pandemic, and people loved it, so he printed it. So obviously there is an audience for it. I just wasn't that audience necessarily. But that was our number 4s. Let's get over to our number 3s. Okay, so for my number 3 roll and write, it's got to be Cartographers.
Nice.
I just enjoy this game. I'm not artistic in any way whatsoever, but I just enjoy this game. Cartographers is in the world of role player, and it's where you are a cartographer and you are building out a map. Let me tell you, I've seen some beautiful maps out there.
You go on BGG and you look it up and they're nice.
I don't make beautiful maps. Mine is, okay, that's the squiggly line for water, and that's the triangle for a tree.
And the triangle is my house.
Yeah, and that is basically how mine are. So, but every round you have 4 different objective cards, and there's A, B, C, and D. And so in the beginning, you're scoring A and B, then B and C, C and D, so on. And so it creates this interesting dynamic where, okay, I'm wanting to place these things here because that is what I'm scoring to get points, but I could also do this one to help me further down the way really score some big points. And just has a really neat mechanic of the way the deck comes out, and it's kind of a variable amount of cards that you're using each time, so there's no real guarantee
How long the round will
yeah,
last.
a neat little take that doesn't feel bad mechanic
Yep.
where when these monsters come out because you're mapping a land, right? Occasionally some monsters can come out. The other players get to draw those on there, but they're not super punishing. It's just something that's kind of a minor annoyance, so I don't really mind it too much. And yeah, can't say enough good about cartographers.
Yeah, Cartographers, it was one of the first roll and writes that we actually got to play. And yeah, it's one that I really enjoy as well. More on that in a little bit. So for my number 3, I actually have Fleet the Dice Game. And Fleet the Dice Game is a Eagle Gryphon game. And also you have the Three Sisters and Motor City, and then the new one, that kind of family of games. Unfortunately, we haven't tried the other ones. We've only done Fleet the Dice Game, but it is one that I have absolutely loved. Like you mentioned at the beginning, we try to play new games at BGG, and this was one that we did play. And when we played it, we were just like, why has it taken us this long to find this one? So very similar to Hadrian's Wall, you have 2 different papers, or 2 different pages. On one side is your boats that you're buying, and then the fish, I think, that you collect are on there as well. And then on the other side, you have your wharf, and then you have just different actions. I think there's a lobster boat, or no, it's a crabbing boat, and a couple different other types of boats. And then you have the shops that you can do stuff. And very similar to Hadrian's Wall, on one side, you're building up your fleet of boats to capture more fish so that you can go to the other side and sell them off, or gather other resources or get those crabs or anything like that. So they're kind of working both off of each other. You're gaining money, and then at the end, I want to say it's whoever had the most money, right? That's who the winner of the game is. So that was a really good one. Again, another combo-y game that feels really good.
Yeah, honestly, the most combo-tastic of any of the roll and writes I have ever played. Paul didn't mention the thing of the 2 different sides or papers you're doing is in one given round, you're actually rolling dice for that side of paper. So it's 2 separate dice rolls. So you got to do this side where you're really, yeah, as Paul said, building up your fishing boats and stuff. And then this side where you're going to town, getting in-game victory points, getting kind of engine building stuff. And then everything you're rolling is just causing you to combo and a free action, combo and a free action. And that's really what it is. It's a bunch of free actions. And so it just feels so good whenever you're like, marking off one thing allows you to do like 4 free actions.
That's
and
right, yeah.
That's just a complete blast. I do love Fleet the Dice
And then
game.
the other thing that neither of us mentioned is the dice that you roll. You're kind of drafting that dice too, right? So it does a really good job of having that player interaction, which a lot of roll and writes don't have, right? So you can say like, oh, I'm going to draft these 2. You're stuck with these ones now. Figure out what to do with them. And like I said, a lot of roll and writes, print and writes, whatever, or flip and writes, they don't have that. And this one has it in a meaningful way.
Yeah, it's just very well done and doesn't feel mean, and I completely love that mechanic. So that was our number 3s. Let's do number 2s. Okay, my number 2 might be the first roll and write I ever played. Okay. So maybe there's some rose-tinted glasses to it, but it is Welcome to.
Nice. This one almost made my list. It was number 6 on this one.
Yeah, Welcome to is a town building roll and write where all it is very basic. You have 3 rows of houses and you're flipping out cards to number the houses, and you're trying to number them 1 to, I think it's 14, it
15,
might be 12, 15, something like that. Yeah. And there's different bonuses that go with it. So you can build fences to kind of build sections of housing.
Suburbs.
Suburbs, yeah. You can do pools. You can do, is it yards?
Parks.
Parks, that's
you
what
have
it
your your businesses that you can have in the neighborhood, and then I think it's construction, which lets you kind of manipulate your numbers a little bit.
Yeah, and there's just, it is completely fun. I have played this with 2 players. I have played this, I think, up to 6 players. every time I'm playing this, people have fun, and it's so quick. I think this is just the epitome of a intro roll and write. You just teach people, hey, you're trying to fill in a number, lowest to highest, and you pick whichever one number you want, and then kind of do the extra action with it. And you don't have to really explain too much strategy. They can figure that out all on their own, and I think it's just so accessible for that.
Yeah, this one does really good at even having, like, making it more of a gamer's game with those in-game objectives, right? So having a suburb of 3, 2, and 5, right? So it's really making you kind of plan out which ones am I going to fence in. Yeah, this one definitely would have made my list. The one reason it didn't, I haven't played it in person recently. So it's been one that I know it's a good game, but I just don't really remember it that fresh. I've played it a couple times on BGG or on BGA, but it just doesn't feel the same, right? It's not the kind of same feeling of playing it in person. But talking about it here, it's definitely one that I want to get back to the table. I know they've released a ton of expansions for it. I think there's an Easter one, a Halloween one. There's Welcome
like
to
a
the
zombie
Moon.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of them. So that just kind of increases the replayability. And I believe all it does is it just adds maybe 1 or 2 mechanics here and there. So it is one that you can play over and over again. And yeah, it's a really fun one. I think that might have been the first one we played.
Yeah. So that was my number 2. What about yours?
So my number 2 is Hadrian's Wall, right? Hadrian's Wall to me is the perfect game to just get out and play on a night where I'm going to say when I don't want to think, even though it's a very thinky game, but it's a game that I can get out and just kind of go through the motions with. You've seen my stats. I think I've got probably about 30 plays of it. That's more than what the campaign would be, and I just recently started the campaign. You did really good talking about it, so I think the thing that you and I both like about it is the campaign, right? So there's a solo campaign, and what it does is it changes maybe one rule on each fort, right? So on the first one, no rule changes, but you need to have at least a score of 70. On the second one, I forget exactly what it is,
Yeah.
but there's some where it's like you can't use this citizen track, or you can't use the baths, or you have to have the wall completely filled out. So it changes up the game enough to where you are actually feel like you're doing something and not just going for a beat your own high score. And we've talked about it. We think that Hadrian's Wall is the perfect solo game. I don't think I would ever play it multiplayer again. So that campaign really does increase that replayability, and it makes it just a game that's going to keep on hitting the table.
Yeah, just like Paul mentioned, the campaign is what I really love of Hadrian's Wall. It forces you to do different strategies. Otherwise, you could probably play the same strategy every single time.
And get about the same score.
And always get about the same score. But this makes you do different things, and a lot of it will lock down your score into a very narrow window. Like there's one where the goal is just to get above a 60 score because it has such limiting factors on it. And so the campaign is definitely kind of the way to play it. And I think a lot of that shows with kind of the not rumored, but the anarchy that they've talked about. No real news, but they have said that that's going to have a campaign out of the box, and that's its spiritual successor. Because I think there's a lot of people like us that was the meat of the game, so they're focusing on it from the beginning this time instead of something coming after the fact.
But, like I said at the beginning, it is a game that I don't mind going through the motions with because I know exactly what I need to do. And if I just want to get a game in without thinking too much, I know, I'll trade this blue worker for this one. I'll go over here to the bath. I'll block this pick, right? So it's a game that you can do that with if you're okay with that. I know you're generally not. You don't want to play the same game over and over, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to say about Hadrian's Wall is you can shut your brain off. I think that means you played it a few too many times.
That could be.
You hit that point with that game.
Could be.
But yeah, so that was our number 2s. Now, before we get into our number 1s, I'd like to have an honorable mention. We both talked about Powerline. It is a game that is everything a roll and write should be, But it's
it's
not.
not.
It's a board game. Nothing's writing.
Yep.
Every round, it's a game where you are trying to build an electrical grid.
Yep.
And so you're
Connecting
trying to
cities to
collect,
cities or whatever
power
it is.
lines and connecting cities. You get points when you connect the cities. Whenever you have everything feeding to a city.
And when you have different connectors to different ones, you get extra bonus points and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very much like it.
And so every round you roll these dice, and they're colored dice, and you lay them out on this board, and then you place them on your board, and everybody's board is slightly different, and it has this very neat mechanic where you cannot always do the most efficient thing that you want to, because you're actually limited. So there's 6 dice there, and maybe you can actually only use all 6 dice. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 times throughout the game, and 5 dice you can only use 4 times. 4 dice you can only use whatever 5 times, and so on. So you have to think, okay, well, although I could use 5 dice this time, I actually need to knock out one of my only 2 dice because I don't want to be stuck with that. Or really, it kind of happens the other way of, oh, this is my chance to use 6 dice. I'm going to use all 6 dice. And it's just really cool. And what makes it very much like a roll and write is after you've done that, you cover it up just like if you were
if you would just fill it in.
Yeah,
just
write
like
it
you
on
do
a
on the
board.
wall
So-
on Hadrian's Wall.
So yeah, it's going to be an honorable mention because it's not technically a roll and write, flip and write, whatever.
But it's
a
very
full-on
close to
board
it.
game. But yes, it is very dang close. So that was our honorable mention. Let's get over to number ones. Okay, made it to the top for my number 1 roll and write. It has to be Paper Dungeons.
Okay. Yep. I thought that. I did think that one.
That game is just incredible.
Yes.
It is a dungeon explory good time. So you are this kind of fantasy party trying to explore a dungeon, and you're collecting treasure, you're battling monsters, and you have a rogue and a fighter and a wizard and a cleric. And you're building up their different levels throughout it, and whatever their level is lets them do different things, and it's just so much fun. You can go out one side of the dungeon and end up on the other side, and you're trying to beat the other people at different relics and things, and if you're the first in a turn to do it, or the first to do it, everybody else has to mark it out and they can't get it anymore. And there's just so much to this game. It's so much fun. I'm normally a guy that doesn't care about theme. Honestly, with most of these we talked about, I really don't care too much about the theme. The gameplay was really good. This one nails it with both.
Both of
the
them.
theme is there. It feels like you are exploring a dungeon, trying to fight these monsters, trying to collect this gold. Just everything you want out of D&D or a dungeon crawl, all in a 30-minute roll and write.
Yeah, I remember playing this one with you and Joe, and to tell you the truth, I don't remember it that well. What I remember is you and Joe absolutely loving it, and mentioning the theme, because again, you've said it before, you live in a fantasy world, and that's what you want in the kind of game, the leveling up of those characters. I remember possibly you moving, but like getting stuck with like some things that were in the dungeon. So like there was some traps that could happen to you, and then the monsters would come out, and you had to be certain levels or something to defeat them. There was something about that. I remember having a good time playing it, but I don't remember too much about the game, so there's not much I can add to that. But I did kind of have a suspicion that one would be on your list. Did not think it would be number 1 though.
I think it is an incredible game. If you haven't, check out Paper Dungeons. But Paul, what's your number 1?
So my number 1, I'm sure you know what my number 1 is. It's Cartographers. I absolutely love Cartographers. Everything that you mentioned about it is just a ton of fun. The player interaction that's there with the monsters, it does kind of hinder you a little bit. You have to focus on that, so it kind of changes your plans. Like you mentioned, the cards that come out, so in the spring, you can have a total of 8 is the time on there, and then it goes to summer, which is 8, then 7, then 6, so those round differentials are different. The edict cards, the goals, that's my favorite part, having to score 2, but then also having to look at the very end of the game where you're scoring A again. All those things just tie in so well. Another thing that I really like about it is all the expansions that have come out. So I also own 3 other map packs that change it up a little bit. So it's like, the ones that you've played, there's the giant crater in the middle, or on the other one, there's like a couple things missing. These ones are like the frozen expanse, where there's a giant like ice lake that you have to encapsule. There's another one that introduces a market, so you can buy some stuff, and that helps you with your placement. And then there's also cartographers' heroes that can kind of prevent those monster attacks. So you draw them on there and you can't place a monster there. So it's kind of for that solo where they would kind of randomly go, that prevents them from going in there. So they've done so much with this game, but the base game of just flipping a card, drawing a polyomino shape, and then, like you said, coloring it in. I will not play that game with just pencils. I've got my colored pencils that go with it. That's a theme that I absolutely love. I love the role player world, the universe, role player universe, and yeah, just everything about it. Absolutely love cartographers.
Yeah, I talked about it earlier. The one thing I didn't mention is it is also kind of like Welcome to. It is very beginner friendly.
Yes, it is, for sure.
You're flipping a card. The card has two polynomial shapes to draw, and that's it. Pick one of the two,
Yep.
draw it. It can't get as simple as that. Do you want to, make a little L or, a little diagonal thing? Just do that. So you can teach this game very quick. I will say with the scoring, it can get kind of lopsided
if you know what it is.
Yeah, if
right?
you're playing with experienced people, they're probably going to run away with the score. But everybody can just have fun drawing it out. And you're really creating, even if you're a terrible drawing
Artist.
like me, you are creating a really kind of neat map, and it's amazing how different everybody's is going to look at the end of the game. When
we've all had the same cards.
Yeah, everybody drew, we'll call it 30 times. Everybody's looks totally different.
Yeah, and then even going back to a family-friendly game, you can always take those monsters out, right? So then there's not that negative interaction. You can pick the easiest of the goals, the ones that aren't like you need this next to this and next to this. The one that's like have the trees next to the borders, have the most filled-in diagonals, right? Like there are some easy goals in there that are for that first kind of player, first time player. So it is a game that is accessible to everybody. And man, I don't know, I love cartographers. That's the game that made me start loving roll and writes. And it's a game that I'm going to continue playing. I'm going to get more map packs. I'm going to get more of the heroes. And I'm just going to continue living out that world.
So that was our top 5 roll and writes. Tell us what you think. Do you agree with our list? Do you like these ones? Is there one we missed? Or is there one maybe we haven't played yet? Drop a comment below because we love roll and writes. We will definitely check them out.
We are going to BGG Spring. We will check it out there.
Exactly. So that's all we have for this one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help us, help our channel grow. We'll see you on the next one. Rolling right.
Flipping right.
We both did this exact same motion. 3, 2, 1.